I'm Jeff Matlow. Welcome to the best leadership podcast ever. Welcome back to the pod. Hey, before we get going, go over to that subscribe button and click it, would you? Be part of the Best Leadership Podcast family. And also, while you're at it, remember this URL. It's super easy to remember. thebestleadershipnewsletter.com. 14,000 leaders are over there. You should make sure you join that community. There's opportunity for free coaching, office hours, exclusive webinars, and a ton more. So head over to thebestleadershipnewsletter.com. Now I want to tell you a story. You see, I had to go to urgent care last week. No, it wasn't for the rash. I told you not to tell anybody about it. And by the way, it's cleared up. Thank you very much. Anyway, I had to go to urgent care for a pain in my ear. It was annoying. It was painful, but I already said that part already. I had tried using Q-tips to see if I can make it less uncomfortable and less painful, but they didn't help. So there I was, sitting on that crunchy papered table in the urgent care room as the doctor pulled out that ear explorer device thingy, poked it in my ear, and started looking through it. And suddenly she leaned back and gave me that look. You know the look. It's the one you give your kid when they do something that you think is so ridiculously idiotic that you're both in awe and disappointed at the same time. That's the look the doctor gave me. And she said, "Tell me you haven't been using Q-tips in your ear." I shifted my body in embarrassment, and the crinkling of that tabletop paper filled the room. And by the way, what is it with that paper? How come every single doctor's office has to use the same loud, crinkly paper on all their tables? Like, with all the technological advancements in our world, you'd think that some scientists could figure out a better cover for medical tables than parchment paper. But I digress. I looked over at the doctor and her eyes were beaming. They were like lasers coming out in judgment of me. She was disappointed. That was obvious. And so I sat there and kind of responded a bit sheepishly. I said, "Yes." She shook her head and tisked at me. She did that. "Don't use the Q-tip," she said. "It just pushes the wax deeper." And as she went back to exploring my ear, she mumbled something that sounded a lot like "no Q-tip." Yeah, I felt embarrassed. I felt demeaned, and yes, I shut down with shame. But here's the thing. She was right. Q-tips are bad. But not just for the reasons that she was referring to. I'm not recording this whole podcast episode to talk to you about hygiene on your ears. Believe it or not, the Q-tip impacts your career trajectory in a big way. But we're going to get there in a minute. First, I need to tell you a different story. One of my coaching clients, a female VP at a Fortune 100 company, she's a very smart woman, like crazy smart. She doesn't even realize how smart she is. That's how smart she is. She started her own company at a young age, and it made some pretty meaningful waves in her industry. That in itself is a really interesting story that I'm not going to get into now. But then COVID happened, and during that lull, she actually got recruited to be a leader at this Fortune 100 company, and she decided to take the job. So she's got a big presentation tomorrow to the entire global executive team. This morning, she showed her boss the final presentation. She had worked hard on this presentation. She was proud of it, and she should be. She was super excited to show her boss and was ready for the accolades that no doubt he would give her. But that's not what happened. Her boss didn't tell her it was great. In fact, he told her it wasn't. He said she missed the point and she had to change a big portion of her presentation. She has to do it before tomorrow morning. So my client called me shortly after this meeting, and she was practically in tears. If there were a cliff nearby, she'd probably jump off it. At least she'd think about it. She was so proud of all she had created that her boss's comments felt like a personal attack on her moral character. She only had a day to fix the deck. She had to get to work, but she couldn't. It's like she was productively paralyzed. She was angry at herself, she was embarrassed at her performance, and she was angry at her boss. She just couldn't get into that headspace to be creative and productive. She was actually ready to quit. And then I mentioned the Q-tip. See, it's sometimes hard to not take things personally. I completely get it. It's one of the most challenging dynamics that happens in almost every single company. As a leadership coach, I've worked with hundreds of leaders on this particular issue. There are a lot of problems with taking feedback personally, but no problem is bigger than the fact that taking it personally always means the problem gets bigger. That's bad, and that's why you need to stop. And that's the message I want to tell you about the Q-tip. You see, the Q-tip isn't just a cotton swab, it's a mantra. Quit taking it personally. Q-tip. QTIP. Quit taking it personally. Maybe you recognize that you take things personally, maybe you don't. But to rattle your brain around a little bit, here are some of the most common Q-tip issues I see with people. When someone disagrees with you, do you think they're insulting your intelligence? When you don't get immediate praise, do you feel like you failed? When you don't get invited to that meeting you think you should be invited to, do you think it's because people hate you? And when you fail to complete 3 weeks of workload in 3 days of work, do you feel inept and useless? Those behaviors aren't about leadership. They're about the failure of a fragile ego. So just like that urgent care doctor taught me that a Q-tip only packs the problems deeper, taking things personally does the same exact thing. When you take things personally, it makes the situation worse by packing the problems deeper inside you. It creates resentment. And in the end, you turn yourself to the center of a story that probably has nothing to do with you in the first place. And it's time to change that. Here's the harsh, cold reality of what you're doing. Most of the time, the issue is not actually an issue, or it's not about you. People are struggling with their own lives, their own insecurities, their own workloads. Their actions reflect them, not you. So if you take feedback personally, all you're doing is converting another person's issues into your own personal drama. Think of it like a Q-tip, the cotton swab type of Q-tip. If you use a Q-tip to fix a clogged ear, you feel like you're doing something helpful when in reality, you're only making it worse. At the same time, to be a better leader, you need to stop cleaning every emotional moment like it's your mess to scrub. When people take feedback personally, they shut down, and that's bad. When people take missed deadlines personally, they start to micromanage. That's bad too. When people take disagreements personally, they stop listening. And that's the exact opposite of what needs to happen. When something pushes your buttons, you need to pause. And that brings me to my challenge to you. My challenge to you this week is to consciously go an entire day without taking anything personally. When someone pushes your buttons, stop your emotional mind. Try to move over to your intellectual brain. Find a good place to sit, to stand, to walk, whatever makes you feel most comfortable. And then think of what they said. Think of why that triggers you. Think of it not from an emotional perspective, but from an intellectual perspective. And imagine what it would feel like if it weren't about you, if it were about them. That's what great leaders do. They stop shoving Q-tips in their emotional canals and start listening instead. So you don't need to fix every problem. You don't need to defend your ego. You just need to Q-tip. Quit taking it personally. If you want some help with this, reach out to me. More than happy to chat with you. We also address it in the Best Leadership community. Go to thebestleadershipnewsletter.com, sign up there. I'd love to talk to you there. As always, thank you for listening. I appreciate you. If you want to reach me, my contact information is in the comments below. I'll talk to you next time. Bye.